You've heard the term SOP before, but do you really need them in your business? The long and the short of it, yes. Yes, you do. SOPs can save you, the CEO, so much time, and if you ever want to expand your team, they're absolutely essential. Today, we'll be talking about the three most essential SOPs for every business. So let's dive in.
Being an online business owner is full of ups and downs. Some days you can't imagine going back to your 9 to 5, and other days you want to burn your whole business to the ground. We get it.
Welcome to Chaos to Conversions, a podcast of practical, no BS strategies to grow your online business. Each week, we're chatting about launching, copywriting, mindset, and more, so you can make sense of the chaos and do more of what works.
Join the conversation and let's grow together.
Hi, welcome back to Chaos to Conversions. This is episode 48, and today we are going to be talking about the three SOPs that I think every single business needs, no matter what your niche is. So what is an SOP? SOP is an abbreviation, an acronym, I guess. I think that's right, for a standard operating procedure. And every business, no matter if it's brick and mortar or online, every business can benefit from having standard operating procedures because it is going to do a couple of things. One, it's going to make sure that your business is operating in a uniform kind of way. And it's also going to increase efficiency, even if you are a solopreneur, because I don't know about you, but I've definitely been here where maybe it's a task that I only do once a month or once a quarter, or heck, even sometimes once a week, and I'll miss a step or forget where exactly to go to check something out or to find something. So when you put SOPs in place, it is also going to increase your own efficiency, even if you don't have any contractors or employees yet, even if you never want to have any employees or any contractors. The inspiration really for this episode comes actually from a hiring project that I did back in July of 2024. She was a TPT author, Teachers Pay Teachers author, and she was ready to outsource like yesterday, but she had absolutely nothing in place. And she had just had her second kid. She was really ready to have some of the recurring tasks taken off of her plate, but she had absolutely no documentation. And this isn't picking on her at all. If you're listening to this episode, a lot of people don't have any type of documentation in place. And then eventually they get to this sort of like bursting point and they need to hire like right now. And they have all of these tasks in mind that they could outsource, but they've never put cursor to computer and actually typed out any of the procedures or processes with them. So then you run into this, you're hiring and you're onboarding somebody new to your team, and you don't have any clear way to like tell them how you like things or, what to do first. And then you're frustrated because they're not doing it correctly. And then they're frustrated because they're like, how can anyone expect me to do it correctly? Because we're just very much like making it all up as we go. With this particular hiring project, that was the inspiration for this episode. What we did, because first, before her hiring project, we actually did a 90-day strategy session. And one of the steps in her 90-day strategy session was to hire a VA to outsource some of her recurring tasks to make her life seem more manageable. But one of the things we did before that is she actually took about a month, maybe 6 weeks, and created all of the SOPs like in bulk, which you can totally do. Like, don't get me wrong, that's not a bad, it's maybe not the way I would do things, but it's not a bad way to do things before she hired. And that way it was much, much easier for her to pass off these tasks. And then her contractor could just ask her questions instead of her like giving direction as needed and it feeling very, very chaotic. Now, the only problem with that was not that she didn't want to take the time to make the SOP. She did ultimately, and it worked out. But if she had been making some of those SOPs as she was going over the last 4 years, or actually, I think even longer of the course of her business, she would have been able to hire more immediately. And this is a big hurdle that I see and that I have seen even with myself I had a virtual assistant, I had a contractor for a while, and then I didn't have one for about a year. And now at the time of recording this, I've had one again for about 5 months. So I already had the SOPs in place when I hired my second contractor, but I definitely created as I went when I hired my first contractor back sometime in 2022. And it was definitely much more arduous because it was like building the train tracks as the train was already going. You know what I mean? So, since this is airing in the new year, maybe you can find some new year motivation to start by compartmentalizing and really thinking about what are some tasks, maybe not even that you want to outsource right now if hiring's not on your radar, but what are some tasks that you could streamline with an SOP? Let's actually get into what I think are the three major SOPs you should have in your business, no matter what your business is. The first is a set of customer service and customer support guidelines. And this is essential because a strong customer support SOP is going to ensure that all of your customers, your buyers, are hopefully satisfied with your product, that they're receiving the help that they need. It'll increase your brand reputation, your clout, if you will, within the online space. Customer support is, I mean, it's really important to me in customer service, and I think it's important to most people. So this is why I would lead with this one. Plus, I mean, everyone's business, no matter if you're a TPT author or an online service provider, you have some type of customer service. It just might be a little bit different, whether we're talking like business to business or business to customer. So the purpose of having a customer support kind of SOP is going to be setting the guidelines for handling customer interactions, making sure that every customer receives the type of support and service that you would want them to. A lot of times, customer support is one of the very first things that I see people outsource because basically no CEO on strategy sessions when I'm talking to them and maybe they're thinking about getting ready to hire, when we brain dump things that like they like to do or things that they don't like to do in their business, no CEO is like, you know what I love? I love answering customer support emails. That's my favorite thing. There's only one person I think that I've ever worked with over the course of the last 4 years who's like, I actually like being in the inbox and seeing what people are saying. Out of like the, I don't know, 50 plus people that I've worked with at this point in time. So what could you put inside of a customer support SOP? This can be kind of like a mix up, a mashup of like protocols for actually answering customer inquiries. So I'm making this purposefully vague so you can customize it to your own business. If you get, email inquiries, if you get a lot of DMs via social media, how, I should say, do you want them to be handled? If we have any common like scripts or guidelines, if a customer ever asks for like a refund or is unsatisfied with a product or a service, how are those things handled? Return policies, refund policies. This kind of, like I mentioned before, dabbles on, handbook versus SOP, but you can, for customer support, sort of like combine those two things. Do you have any standards for how often you want people to be responded to? Are you cool with like 48 hours? Do you prefer 24-hour response times? Will you be checking the email on the weekends? Do you want your contractor to check emails on the weekends if you eventually outsource? So these are the sorts of things that you can think about and include in your customer support or customer service SOP/guidelines. The other thing that you can do to save yourself some extra time, it's not really like an SOP per se, is you can put drafts into your Gmail like draft folder. That way, if you get like common questions, it's easier for you to copy and paste. You can link those in the SOP to make things quicker and more streamlined, especially if you're like bringing somebody on later. But like I mentioned, you might want to think about your ideas and how you want customer support and service to run for your business, because customer support is definitely one of the things people outsource the most, especially if your business is business to customer rather than business to business. Like if you're a TPT author, a lot of times customer support is one of the first things that I see outsourced. The next SOP that I would really encourage you to start thinking about would be a marketing slash social media, if you're on social media, SOP. And this doesn't have to be like a big, scary, giant, massive content plan or anything. But a marketing or social media SOP is going to be important for making sure that your branding is consistent. It's going to prevent miscommunications. And hopefully, eventually, if you end up having multiple streams of marketing, like email, social media, podcast, it can kind of provide a unified front and maximize the effectiveness of all of your marketing efforts. And this is something I also see people, especially in the Teachers Pay Teachers space, start to outsource, whether you eventually hire for emails, blogs, social media, anything like that. This would be something good to have at least started if you plan to outsource that eventually. It can also be something good to have if you are a solopreneur. So I have I guess we could call it a marketing SOP. It's just the way that I kind of do things in terms of my marketing strategies. So the podcast that you're listening to right now is my major long form content. So that is what I tend to plan first. Included in the SOP with my own marketing SOP would be the sort of frequency in which the podcast is released. I have the links in which I need to submit to our podcast editor. We have our podcast outline that we use in order to outline our episodes, BRANDA and I. So all of these things would fall under a marketing SOP. So first for me, like I plan podcasts, then emails, and then once we sort of have those things planned, I can plan my social media a little bit better. Is it perfect? Definitely not. Do I do it with consistency every month? Also, no. But the fact that I have everything in one place makes it a lot easier to plan my content as a whole. So some other things that you might include in a marketing type of SOP would be content creation and approval process. So that would be more for like if you are eventually going to outsource any part of your marketing and you have different people on your team who are like creating it, whether that be the actual like creative and visuals and copy, or if you have different people creating your content calendar, do you want to approve it, et cetera, et cetera. Other things you might wish to include within your marketing SOP are general guidelines for posting frequency, platform-specific things. As an example, do you always cross-post your Instagram Reels to Facebook, or do you only cross-post certain things? Do you also want to post things into a Facebook group if you happen to have one? You know what I mean? Any sort of like guidelines, frequency, social media management, guidelines for engaging with followers. All of these are just examples. You don't have to have all of these, but all of these are just examples of things that you could outline in a marketing style SOP. The last type of SOP is sort of a bonus. It's kind of vague, but it would be anything that you believe to be a super repeatable task in your business. So in order to kind of get these to the forefront of your mind, I want you to take a week or so and track what you're doing each day. Note things that you're doing every single day. Are they repeatable processes? Do they have to be done by you? If you don't plan to outsource or don't plan to hire, then, I mean, that's fine. They can continue to be done by you. But if you're thinking of maybe outsourcing this year, or it's a task that you don't love doing and you might like to outsource it at some point, keep a note about anything that is repeatable that you could maybe someday outsource, or alternatively, it might be something that you could streamline or make faster for yourself. Some examples of this would be anything like email scheduling, blog scheduling, formatting, podcast scheduling, formatting. These are really easy tasks to outsource if you have a clear process and procedure in place. Other things could include posting a new product to Teachers Pay Teachers, your WooCommerce website, Thrivecart. building a funnel in Kajabi, for example, with the right steps, they're very, very easy to outsource, or at the very least, they're very easy to streamline and make faster for yourself if you have a checklist, all the steps, and all of the things that you need in one place. It is amazing how much brain space can be freed up when you have all the steps written down for you with videos and links and everything that you need included. So much brain space and creativity can be freed up when you don't have to think through each step-by-step kind of detail of a task that you're doing on repeat. So for any of these other like repeatable SOP tasks that you might be developing, this is going to be really helpful in your business because we're going to make sure that the task is done in a unified way, consistency across the business, and that it's also going to be really easy for you to outsource should you ever choose to do so. So your SOP for that would include any sort of like step-by-step instructions for the task, where all of the details could be found in order to execute the task, any appropriate links, and any tools and templates that might be needed. Having SOPs in your business can make a big difference in the efficiency of your business and save you so much time and make it so much easier should you ever want to outsource. I recommend you start with customer support practices, marketing, or any other repeatable task that you may wish to not do someday, or do that task much faster. Even if you never outsource, you'll thank yourself when everything is in one easily accessible place. If you head to the link in the show notes, you'll find an SOP procedures checklist and template for TPTers. It has an editable template, 13 important documents you should have in your business, and the 20 essential standard operating procedures that I think every TPT business needs in order to streamline content and product creation. Be sure to check it out.
Thanks so much for stopping by to hang out with me today. If you want to learn more about how we can work together on a launch strategy or grab a freebie or one of the resources I mentioned, head over to duxburydigital.co/resources. I'll be back here next Tuesday for more practical strategies to take your business from chaos to conversions.